Hello, hello,
Hi.
hello, everybody! It is so good to see all of your non existent digital faces in the chat. Welcome to this next installment of our Godkiller First Blood one shot series featuring the incredible Stellaluna and Drakoniques. This very special one shot is called Godkiller Child of Time, and it is an immensely unique game that I am so pumped to share with the entire world and all of you. So, thank you all so much for being here. Godkiller would not be possible without the support of all of you beautiful queer and trans heretics. So thank you so much for attending this very special actual play session. If you don't already know, Godkiller is an original holy punk PBTA game created by yours truly, built to tell the story of one player, the Godkiller, tonight Drakoniques, and one game master, the God of Gods, tonight Stellaluna. Together, the God and Godkiller will weave a mythic, violent, and transformative tale about a single mortal rising against the challenges of the divine. Pre-orders for the Ashcan edition of Godkiller, if you want to play your own God-killing journey, are open now. So you can nab your very own copy while they're still on sale during this pre-order period and be ready for their full release in June. So use !Godkiller in chat to get your very own act of heresy. And if you're like, who the heck is this person that's talking right now? I'm here for Stella and Drac. Very quick introduction for myself. Hello, I'm Connie. My pronouns are they, he, and she. I am the usual game master and creative producer on the channel you're watching this show on right now, Transplanar RPG, which is an all transgender, people of color led, 100% homebrew, tabletop roleplay game, actual play series channel set in an original non-colonial anti-Orientalist multiverse. So follow us right here on Twitch and Twitter at Transplanar RPG, and we've got some really cool stuff coming up in June as well. But I've overstayed my welcome when it comes to introductions. I'm gonna pass along things to Stella and Drac now and say goodbye to you all. So you're gonna see me fade away. Goodbye. The show must go on. Bye.
Hello, everyone. I'm Stellaluna. I'm a TTRPG producer, performer, and for tonight, game master. You can find me over at Stellaluna over on Twitch, Stellaluna TV on all other social media. I am very, very excited to be here, and I apologize in advance to Drac if you cry, if I cry, we all cry. This is going to be a little bit heavy, but we'll get into that in just a minute. Let me pass it over to Drac.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jack or Drakoniques. You can find me on Twitter at Drakoniques. That's Drakoniques. I'm a TTRPG performer, producer, everything and anything TTRPG related. I am currently doing or will be doing. Doing a lot more writing recently, so you can keep an eye out for that. But today I'm going to be playing a Godkiller. We're playing Dari. You'll hear more about them soon, but I'm very excited.
Excellent. Thank you. Some quick announcements before we get started. Every Saturday from now to the end of May, Transplanar will be hosting Godkiller one-shots right here on Twitch featuring 7 pairs of gods and god-killing guests. Every single participant is a true titan of TTRPGs, so make sure you come back next week, same time, same place, to see Gabe James Games as God and Serena Marie as Godkiller.
We also have some incredible sponsors for this Godkiller one-shot series. As you can see from the overlay, we're using Roll to bring you this streamed game. But we also have it has never been used. It's never been easier to use your game. Easier to customize your games online with this awesome VTT. Make sure you put ! sponsor in chat to start running your own games in Roll and get some info on our other sponsors. Start playing in Magpie Games.
Finally, Godkiller is a dark fantasy series that contains content that may be triggering to some viewers. Content warnings for this episode include fantasy violence, blood, gore, complex and complicated relationships, body horror, animal corpses, death of loved ones, grief, sexual favors, immolation, mortal injuries, and murder. You can use ! CW in chat anytime to get a full list of these content warnings. And with that, it's time to get started. Are you ready, Drac?
Yeah.
Okay, let me put on the hood. Okay. The day you were born was the day that Kang, the river of the underworld, turned to frozen glass. You have heard stories and were told of a time before the river, before you. Since you could remember, This has been a haunted place of unsettled promises and lingering regrets. Sometimes in the manifestation of a malevolent spirit, sometimes in something more like a memory. It used to be full of light and possibility, but mortals long ago lost control over their domain when the river opened up in the sky and, quite literally, spilled forth gods and their ghosts into the cradle known as Yolam. We see derelict stone buildings outcrop overgrown gardens and cobblestones pebbling between rampant weeds. Verdant wildlands have swallowed rails and roads. Gas lamps have made perfect homes for various hives, and ivy hangs in curtains from stubborn wires between the ruins. Most of Yolam now is this, a graveyard of a thriving civilization from another time, where overgrown beasts and bloodthirsty spirits devour anything that just can't outrun them. What remains of mortal kind is now found in sanctuaries, territories that are bound to the more reasonable of the gods in this domain, where people can eat, work, fuck in relative peace without fear that they'll be gored in their sleep. Most of your life you spent in Northhome, under the care of the god of strength, Him, and your father, until he vanished without a trace. The path between Northhome and Easthome is not the safest, but you've made this journey dozens of times, and you know that you should pack ghost fire torches and galvanized silver just in case. This particular trip, you spotted at least 2 horned wolves, but they were only about 3 feet tall to the shoulder, and you are experienced enough to know that pups of this size still fear being seen, being caught. 4 is the number of death. 4, that's when they become dangerous. As you are approaching Easthome, you see a broken road, almost half obscured by all of the flourishing wilderness all around. There are buildings between the trees here, and you know and recognize this place because you've been here quite a few times before. Eldra, priestess to the god of mercy, one of your closest childhood friends, lives in the bones of an old restaurant refurbished into an apothecary on the lower tier of Easthome. When she isn't singing to the snapping reed bulbs of her moody garden, she is at the temple. You, right now, seem to have caught her at the door of her house, though you are uncertain which way she is headed. This woman, draped in gossamer silk with a gaudy, beady necklace that hangs heavily around her throat, earrings that pull her face down towards her neck, wrapped in various cloth all around. She turns towards you and locks eyes. What does she see as you enter Easthome after this perilous travel?
You see, or she sees, a about 6'1" mask presenting black person. They're rather lean in their build. You can tell that they are a fighter of some kind. They have that kind of spring to their step, gait to their walk, and they have one silver earring that drops down. Honestly, probably too long for it to be convenient. It dangles and hits against his shoulder every time he moves his head, makes an audible sound if you're close enough. They have their hair in short dreads or swooped to one side. Every so often, some strands of it will end up in his face, covering his left eye. He's wearing what can only really be described as a kind of dress shirt button-up, very much not something he would be wearing after this long journey, but it seems like he made a very split-second decision and left in whatever clothes he was wearing at the time. Over his shoulder is a rucksack where he's put a bunch of gear and provisions for the journey, as well, of course, the galvanized silver and everything, and the ghost fire torches, as well as some other instruments that he knows he might need if he comes across not so pleasant company. He's in slim fit jeans and boots that he probably definitely threw on in the moment, but they're at the very least good for the walking, the trek that he just went on, probably like the equivalent of hiking boots, very worn and torn from many days of use, not just today. And at his sides is for lack of a better term, a dog, a golden retriever, very beautiful golden fur. And at first glance, that's all it seems to be. But upon closer look, and I think even especially in seeing Eldra, wings kind of come out from the sides of it, bird wings. It's similar sort of similar gold to the fur, but feathers that almost blend into it if you're not looking close enough. But they kind of flap in, I think, excitement at seeing another familiar face, despite Dari's face being a picture of the exact opposite, a bit awkward and maybe even annoyed that they've come across this familiar face in particular.
When you lock eyes with her, you hear the last words that she had with you. You cannot heal in the same place you got sick. And that stoic, strange moment between the two of you is abruptly broken as Ikemba bursts forward, slightly gliding through the air, and more or less crashes into Eldra's legs. She smiles, a bit reserved, and she begins to kneel down into the dirt and gently pet your companion. Her eyes lock with yours.
I will slowly walk towards her, but make an effort to be looking at Ikemba, the golden retriever with wings, as I scold them. Ikemba, we have somewhere to go. We don't need to. Hello.
Hello. I didn't expect to see you so soon.
Yes, I will be honest, I didn't expect to see you so soon either. This isn't a planned visit, so you don't need to worry about that.
You see that her hands tremble slightly as she's bothering herself with petting the creature, briefly looking away, perhaps to break that gaze that just feels so heavy and strange in the moment. And you, even without her saying anything, know exactly what she's thinking about. You remember discovering the corpse of her god, the mosaic of broken bones around their exploded once immortal body, and the crumpled remains of what must have been a blood-red flower pulled free from where it was hidden in the God of Mercy's heart. That was the moment that you realized that gods can be killed, and there was a method to this, a way around immortality. And the weight of all of this hangs over her, unspoken between you two. And Eldra sighs. You see from the way that she casts her eyes over towards the temple of the God of Mercy that is in fact her destination.
I cross my arms, seeing that there is no calling Ikemba back when he sees Eldra. He's always been like that. Not looking at Eldra, I think looking, eyes locked on the temple, he says, so how have you healed now that you left the place that you've been wounded in?
She seems to have no response for you. A look of guilt shadows her features as her hands slowly peel away from Ikemba, and she gathers a basket of flowers at her feet. All I know is this. I have what I have, and I know better than to ask for any more.
Dari shakes his head. Not quite disappointment, because it's the response he almost expected her to give, but can't help but have hoped she would have given another one. And again, without looking at her, looking at the temple, he puts up a hand out and says, I can carry the flowers for you, at least until you get there.
She hesitates, but you find that the stiffness in her figure begins to melt away. How could she resist? The two of you have been through so much together, and any dispute could not outweigh the loyalty, the friendship. Another sigh leaves her as she hands over the basket. And she looks up at the sky and says, "What time is it?" And as you look down at your watch, you see that it says 6:10. 6:10. It is certainly midday, not the evening, not the morning. 6:10. You look up and you are in a kitchen. You see that there is morning light slowly pouring in. It is peeking through the trees, and it illuminates a soft shadow over the boiling kettle, the food that is sitting on the stove, popping, your favorite breakfast. And you can hear the soft humming of a familiar voice. Comfort washes over you in waves. 6:10 a.m. And your mother looks over her shoulder to you and says,
I didn't think you were going to wake up anytime soon.
Yes, I had a long day at work yesterday, so I kind of just stayed in bed for as long as I could, and I walk over to her and give her a kiss on her cheek. Morning.
Good morning, my dear.
and she gives you a kiss back, and she prepares a plate. And the two of you sit down, and you notice as she turns around to reach for the drawer where she keeps the cutlery, her hands shake and hesitate. She seems almost frozen in time for a moment. You look over and you see your mother's weathered face, her wrinkled hands, her fragile bones leaning up against the counter for support. She doesn't move.
I take her hand in mine, just go, okay, I got this. And I'll open the drawer and take out the cutlery for her. You should sit down. I can finish making the rest of breakfast.
Oh, thank you. You are so sweet.
And slowly she moves to sit down. You hear the scraping of the wood against the tiles of the kitchen floor. She's worked so hard to keep this home intact. It is a broken place, North Home. It takes a lot of energy and efforts to keep it all intact, especially after the devouring, the approach of the gods into this place. It takes every shroud of effort. And she leans back and she looks up at you, and you see pride in her eyes. You see that she smiles, and it touches the colors just swimming in her eyes. She says, I'm going to
remember this morning.
Yeah, like every other morning, and many others we're going to have. Why this one in particular?
This one feels different. Pass me the ketchup, will you?
Yes, yeah. Now, grab the ketchup and set it down beside her as I take a seat with my plate now.
You set down the ketchup with a soft thud, and you place the flower basket on the table inside the temple. Eldra looks over at you and shakes her head. She says, it is not 6:10. I have duties that I need to attend to. Is there something that I can do for you? Why are you back if you're not here to meet with me?
I have business to attend to as well.
Business? With who? I didn't know you knew anyone in East Home.
I don't. I know of someone in East Home that has... They've been poking and prodding me, and I'm here to solve that problem.
Well, all right. If you need any help, you know where to find me. I will be here. And you look around, you see the temple of the God of Mercy is carpeted in flowers of all sorts. It is a tapestry of color made of petals. The air here is heavy, somewhat musky by the scent of the decaying flowers. And you see that there are various followers of this god in amongst the pews, amongst the tables. And you can't help but feel a strangeness about this. You know the God of Mercy to be dead. You've seen him with your own eyes, and still these people are here. And Eldra picks up a book and begins to move over towards the pews.
I will follow. I think that, again, is the case that Ikemba probably takes the lead on this, following Eljo almost like a shadow at this point, more of a shadow for her than me, which I've grown used to. Sometimes awkward, especially in this case when we're not in the best of terms, but
It's a funny thing that gods exist here. In these sanctuaries, the gods that prove to be benevolent, perhaps even beneficial to the humankind that still exists, they form these unusual relationships, but you would know very intimately that these always serve a purpose. Even the God of Mercy, who would take the difficult feelings and the painful memories away from those that beseeched him, it was to feed. It was his hunger. He would siphon off these feelings, even if they were negative. There would be nothing left behind. And it is ironic that here, the God of Mercy is not here. There is a void of him, and where he used to be, but the people still sit. And there is a sort of solemn air in this temple as the various followers and worshippers are sitting. You hear the gospel of their kind, and there's a emptiness to them.
As I sit by Eldra, I don't pick up a book of my own. I just sit and watch people watch. I watch her, the other followers as they file in, and sit down and listen to the one at the front. And over time, and it's quick, maybe less than 2 or 3 minutes, I'm bouncing my leg in frustration at seeing all these people praying to a dead god and doing nothing to avenge the memory of a being they apparently love and cherish so much. And right in the middle of the gospel, under my breath, as I have at least some respect, I say to Eldra, you said you can only heal if you move from the place where you were wounded. But you can only heal if you rid yourself of the knife that caused that wound.
You see her jaw clench, and she seems to bite back the impulse to respond. Her eyes cast up away from you to the sermon, and she tenses up beside you. As the sermon begins to come to a close, she looks up at you And she shrugs with a sigh. What else am I to do? This is where I belong. This is all I can hope for.
Don't you want any justice? Any form of it that you can get, that you can scrape at, even if it's minuscule? You're all just sitting here singing empty platitudes. Your God's not even here to listen anymore.
There is only so much that we can do.
There's only so much you're all willing to do. There's a difference.
She looks down at her feet and she slowly closes the book. I will be dressing the tapestry with the flowers I picked this morning. You are welcome to join me, Dari, if you like.
Like I said, I've got business to do. Have fun with that. And I stand up and begin to leave, calling Ikemba with me.
Ikemba hesitates for a moment, but is smart enough, is willful enough in their bond to you that they notice this strangeness in the air, this moment of distress, and they pull away from Eldra's side and rush after you. The two of you step out into the afternoon light of Eastholm, and possibilities open up before you. You had heard rumors from a friend of yours that someone had answers and someone was pushing all of the wrong buttons. We see you moving through the various buildings in different states of repair, move between wooden pallets, moving aside aluminum sheets, crawling into an empty building, and eventually you reach a ruined tower. At the very top of it, you find an unusual being. Floating upon themselves, you see what appears to be junk. You see a motley of colors and boxes and papers and confetti, masks and balls and all sorts of strange objects conglomerated here together, mashing against each other, somehow floating against its better nature. You know this to be a god just by looking at them. This is who you were looking for, Changnan, the god of mischief, hovering here in the tower. A peal of laughter erupts from them as they look at you with their many eyes and many faces. And it is here that you stand face to face with the god of mischief. Music thumps out into the street below as darkness begins to descend in the many hours it took you to get to this place. And we find a moment of violence here as the god of mischief says to you,
It's hard to turn the page when you know someone won't be in the next chapter, but the story must go on.
we see violence erupt here. The camera turns away from it to you. What goes on in your mind, in your heart, Dari, as you confront the first god that you have prepared and managed to slay?
At the beginning of this confrontation, there is a sense of duty. I believe this is the only thing I need to do and have to do. They've gone out of their way to disrespect the memory of someone oh so dear to me and think they can walk away unscathed. And I planned on scathing them. Just sending a message across to make sure that they know that I am not someone to be trifled with, but within the fight, inside the violence that took place, he poked and prodded more and more and more until all I saw was red and then gold as I realized that I was covered in what was once inside this god.
In your hand is a dagger made from a mirror given to you by a friend. They said that you would need it when the time was right. For what exactly you weren't sure, but in this moment where you just couldn't take any more, you knew exactly where it needed to go. The heap of junk lies there, bleeding gold, as you see the small worn chest with rusted hinges, bearing many deep grooves, a crooked lid that was once worn as a backpack is broken and bleeding, gushing wave and wave of gold as if a thumping, dying heart. And you hear, with its wavering breath,
I curse you, Dari. Thou shalt not laugh. You will know no joy from this moment on.
and with a last shudder, the god begins to wither at your feet.
I crouch down at the withering, desiccating remains. It is hard to turn the page knowing one person won't be in that chapter, but it is easier to know that you won't be in it either.
The taunting mockery, the words that this god had equipped to wounded you, they ring quietly in the back of your mind, belittling your mother's suffering, the casual dismissal of your father abandoning you. They slowly fade for now. You are covered in gold. You're shaking from the moment. But in this moment, you were given a lead, an understanding that what you discovered with the death of the God of Mercy and now the death of the God of Mischief is they can be killed and they can be hunted.
I try to wipe my face of the blood, but only smear more across my forehead as I sit there for a moment, trying to catch my breath, trying to steady myself again, as this rage slowly subsides. And I grip onto the mirror, the dagger made of glass, cutting myself a little as my blood almost mixes with the gold. And I stand up. Okay, they can die. They can die. So can he. I will look down to Ikemba to gauge his expression at this. Despite him being my companion, he definitely has his own state of mind.
Yes. Let's have our first roll here. Sounds like you're trying to feel someone or something out. This is a mortal move. I will give you the clarity you seek. When you try to feel out a person, place, or thing, say what you want and clarity about answer one. GM will give you clarity you seek and then answer the other. What feels welcoming on the surface? What feels unnerving when I peer deeper?
Okay. There's 2d6s.
I believe that you can just do this.
Just do it. Okay.
Yeah. So as you are looking at Kemba, would you like to know the surface or deeper?
Deeper.
Okay. On the surface, Kemba seems fine. But as you peer deeper, locking eyes with this companion that was created for you out of love, you see pain. You see a failure of trying to understand. This creature, though it experiences emotions, they're not quite as complex as yours. This worry and anxiety sits in the belly of this creature as it cowers on the edge of this battlefield at the top of the tower.
I will walk over to Ikemba, still covered in the God of Mischief's blood, but I try to smile, to say, I'm fine, you don't need to worry. As I get closer, I'll crouch down. I won't get right up to him, but I'll be a good maybe 2-3 feet away from him as I crouch down and open my arms for him to come into.
He loves you deeply. He bursts forward and embraces you, almost knocking you over. And there is some levity here in this moment as he begins to snuggle you and lick your face, clearing the blood off of you, where only feet away from you lays the body of what you have destroyed.
And as Ikemba tackles me, and I fall to the ground as he licks and rolls and nuzzles into me, I, as one would, try to laugh, but as I do, I feel a burning sensation in my chest first, and then it rises to my throat, and that alone is enough to stop me from feeling the urge to laugh. And I'm confused. I look at Chikema in confusion for a moment before I remember the dying words of the very one behind me, just a few feet away.
As you are made aware of this newfound fire in your throat, you kind of choke on the laugh, but you realize that this is a sort of power in itself. There's something else there with it. With the defeat of the God of Mischief, you have unlocked a power. You know that Changnan is the master of illusion magic, and though by no means you would be able to casually mirror their mastery of illusion, you do have some shade of it now.
I think I follow this burning sensation in my throat, and instead of using it to let out a sound, I use it and almost breathe out a image as almost as a test to see what this can do, what part of this God I have now within me. And I think I make an illusion of the broken body of the God of Mercy right beside the God of Mischief.
You see it twinkling like solidified breath, almost crystal-like in the air beside the God of Mischief. And it is so faint, it is barely perceptible, your first attempt at tapping into this magic, this power. And there is a particularly loud, bassy thump from the club across the street where people are gathered and singing, and it seems to shake up the building, this very old brick tower, and it is enough to break the illusion. It flutters down into glitter and disappears.
Okay, so that's... he left more than one gift, I suppose. I think I've given up on joy for a while now, so... And I'll cup Ikemba's face and press my forehead against him and say, I know you're worried, I know. but this is good for me. I need to do this. I will be fine.
And you feel the hot, warm body of your companion lean up against you. Complete trust, complete loyalty. And in that moment, things feel better. With the god of mischief slain, you have finished here what you meant to do. There is little more for you here unless you wish to seek out Eldra. You know that perhaps going home, you might be able to seek solace and guidance from others that you know.
I think he doesn't want to face Eldra, especially after what he's done. He doesn't want to have to explain something that she just won't understand. So he's going to go straight back home, north home.
Okay. As you're making your way out of East Home, you feel the gold beginning to dry onto your clothes, and it stains deeply. It is dark by the time you begin to head into the wilds of this world. And you know that Yolam, there are stories that speak of the origin of this domain. Once there was a great titan that laid down into the void of the world, the nothingness that came before all things, and it is from their body that the 4 homes were made: north, south, east, west. Some might say North Home is something akin to where the head might have been. East is the hand of emotion, west is the hand of logic, and south is where the gut of Yolam was. And as you're making your way through this teeming wilderness, you light a ghost fire torch, and it burns this bright, brilliant blue, keeping the shadows at bay. And you see that the specters that haunt this world, they seem to loom right on the edge of perception here, warded away by this strange firelight that you've created. And you begin to head towards the heart of Yolam, towards the river. As you approach, you are immediately made aware of how cold it is. You do have to pass through this area in order to get to any of the other sanctuaries, including your own home. So you are quite familiar with this. When you are at the river, it is a literal river that extends down into the earth and extends all the way up into the sky. There were stories that this was once a flowing, living thing, but as far as you've always known, it has always been made of this ice-cold, frozen glass. It is impossible to climb, it is impossible to penetrate, and no one really knows where it goes or why it's here, other than it is responsible for why the gods have spilled forth. You do remember a certain rumor that said that the river froze up on the day that you were born. But it's impossible to tell. Could have been any number of reasons. As you're approaching where the river is, where it meets the earth, the heart of Yolam, you see that it is a completely barren wasteland all the way around for about a mile. And you see, as always, there are a ring of worshippers kneeled and cowed before the frozen river, surrounding it in a circle, the desperate here pleading towards the gods, pleading towards anyone that would listen. And you see these people that are in various states of malnourishment, of poor health, and a lack of resources. And here they ignore you once again, as they always do.
there's a very clear look of disdain on my face whenever I walk past these people in particular, these worshippers of the river itself. It sickens me to see that they'll pray and worship to something that now there is no plausible deniability that gods exist, yet all of these people are still living in awful conditions, and they've seen no clear sign that the gods are going to help them, yet they still persist. It seems to me, it seems all too much like the situation with Eldra and the followers of the God of Mercy, that they are not willing to do anything for the injustices that they're facing.
They continue to ignore you as you pass on through. The soft light that lives inside the river is enough to illuminate for miles on end, and you can see their faces very clearly, almost unblinking as they stare up at it in fervent worship. But as you pass on through, you do see a couple of creatures in the dark. You see skulk birds, these large reptilian creatures that have these feathered heads and these long spindly arms. They seem to consider you for a moment, but as you wave your ghost fire torch in their direction, they begin to scamper away, deciding against their better nature. You can hear some rush hogs nearby, but you don't quite see them. And by the time you get to Northhome, where you are most familiar, the sun is beginning to rise and peek through the canopy of the trees. You approach the first building of Northhome, a place that you have spent a great amount of time at. This is the Two-Hearted Hideaway. You are met by a low stone wall that surrounds what must have once been the remains of a train station. You know that it's been repurposed over time to become a temporary home for those that are wandering through. Partially a gymnasium, also a shrine, and a cafeteria. The smell of steam, rice, and the boiled pork of rush hogs greets you first as you begin to approach. This is something of a second home for you, because you know that this is where Him, the god of strength, makes residence. You see, as you look through the gate, the gargantuan frog guardian, Ke, is currently sleeping. And you know that he's in charge of watching over the dozen or so children that are left in Him's care during the day.
I will go past Care very quietly, not to disturb their sleep, just say, "Good morning, Care." And I walk by them. Do I see the kids playing around this early?
Not this early. You know that they are probably at home.
Yeah. There'll be a moment where I pause after just a few steps behind Care, where I'm trying to decide whether or not I do want to see him. I am covered in blood. There's very few ways I can explain that away, and even if I tried, I feel he was more or less aware of what my goal was, going to Westholm. So I walk forward, ready to meet him.
As soon as you step up into the train station, one of the doors bursts open, and you see a very familiar figure. Shirtless, extremely ripped, standing at 6'5". You see this man, maybe man, step forward. He has an untamed mane of tangerine orange hair. He has these large cat ears that grow out of his head, and he saunters forward, and he has the biggest smile on his face. He seems to look right through the blood and to you, and he says,
Well, look who it is. I am so glad to see you. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you? You're up and at it early. I mean, I guess not earlier than usual.
Oh, I've started a new thing where I don't sleep because I don't really need it.
That's fair. Yeah, no, I forget about that. You don't need any sleep. Can I quickly borrow your shower?
Yes. However, I will need your help with something.
Yeah.
There are way too many dumplings in my kitchen, and I need someone to help me eat them.
Okay. Good thing I'm here then. Let's help you eat those dumplings.
All right. You know where the shower is?
Yep. Yeah. Also, Ikembo is, you can tell, very excited to see you as I will walk by into the showers, towards the showers.
Ikemba.
and you see the two of them embrace, and as they do, Ikemba begins to softly, literally glow the way that Ikemba does when they are closest to him. And you begin to make your way through the estate here. And as you go to the showers, you find them clean and welcoming. You are able to have a moment to yourself as Ikemba is very clearly munching down on something in Heem's kitchen. What is going on through your mind here as you are finally alone?
I, almost with a smile plastered on my face, as I walk through the hallways to the showers, I close the door behind me, and that smile immediately fades, almost breaks and cracks away like a mirror. And I undress and turn on the shower and just stand underneath the water for who knows how long. I clearly don't. And all I can think about is my mother and my father, the memories I have of them together and the memories I have of them apart.
As you let the shower wash over you, does it start hot or does it start cold?
Cold.
Cold. The cold carries over, and you're not sure how long you've been under the water, but when you finally blink up, you find yourself on a beach, and you are washing the sand away from your body. It is 6:10 p.m., and you look over to the small cart that is awaiting you. Your mother is already seated in the back. It is attached to a very large chicken that is driving this particular vehicle. And she is reclining on the cushions, gesturing you to come forward. You see that she is quite tired from today. It has been a lovely evening here on the beach, but it's been quiet.
I hurry over after I've gotten the last of the sand off of me and hop into the carriage beside my mother. And I'm smiling. I enjoyed the time out here we had together. It's been a while. We've both been busy with our own respective jobs, and there are very few days where she has the energy to do anything like this. But for some reason, she insisted that we go to the beach today, and who was I to say no to that?
You hear the sand and dirt crunching beneath the wooden wheels of the cart as it begins to make its way back home. And your mother leans up against you, and you feel her hand slide into yours, fingers entwining. Her hand feels so small compared to how it usually is. and you can feel her breathing against the side of your arm.
This was quite lovely, wasn't it?
It was. It was. I think it was some rest we really needed.
I like what you did with the sand castle.
Yes, no, I've been practicing. No, I honestly just kind of winged it. It's also
I was going to say, I don't think I've seen you out on the beach in some time. In fact, I think the last time we were here, you were a young boy.
Yeah. It was a while ago.
Do you remember the kites?
I do. I'll be honest, it'll be hard for me not to. I think that was one of my favorite outings.
The
My
kites
first hike
got,
as well.
it got tangled in that tree.
Yes. And I cried until you were able to get it down.
You were so scared when I slipped.
Yes. The tree seemed very tall, and you, no offense, but you were also very small. You still kind of are.
But I came out unscathed, as always.
Yeah. Yeah. I think as I have her frail hand in mine, I think that I've always had this ability, or just intuition or knack for understanding and feeling, for I could really tell the energy of a person, and I could see on her that it was weak. Weaker than usual. I even noticed that when she initially proposed going to the beach, but again, who was I to say no to some time that I haven't had with my mother?
You feel her fading, and she has been fading. You are so familiar with this particular power of yours, this intuition that you possess, that you know it's something unusual. You've been around other humans before, and it is unlike them. She has never explained to you in depth why or how these things are the way they are, but you have your own intuitions about it. You hear a knock on the shower door.
Give me a sec.
The dumplings are going to be cold.
Okay, yeah, I'll be quick. What's the time, by the way?
It is currently 4:23.
Okay, thank you. Took a bit longer than expected. I'll be out.
All right.
I probably take another minute or two to stand under the shower before I turn it off and head out, drying myself, getting dressed in some clean clothes, and go out to meet.
As you step out of the bathroom and into the small bedroom that you sometimes stay at, you see that there's a fresh set of clothes already presented for you. He knows what you like to wear, and sitting beside the bed is Ikemba, who has also been washed and is extremely fluffy at this moment. No longer can you see the definition of the head and the neck and the arms. It is literally just a triangle of fur.
Okay, we need to at least brush you down to some degree. As I go out, get dressed, and then go over to kind of, with my hands, brush down some of the fluff and the fur. So at the very least, we can tell that it is a dog of some kind.
You fail miserably.
I figured as much. But I think Ikemba, at the very least, enjoys the little pets and scratches that come along with this. And
Absolutely.
come on, we shouldn't keep him waiting for too long.
Bark, bark. As the two of you make your way into Heem's kitchen, you see that this massive mountain of a being is sitting down at the chair. Ikemba rushes over and sits at his feet and begins to be a glowing triangle now. And Heem looks over at you, gestures to the dumplings, and says,
All right. Tell me about it. What happened? You okay?
I let out a deep sigh as I pull out a seat and I think pick up a dumpling, take a bite out of it before kind of setting it back down. And I just look down.
Do you like it? It's my new recipe.
It's a dumpling.
They like it. They like it. Yeah, they like it.
It was. I lost control. I'm big enough to admit that.
No. Control is something that you build up over time, and there will be moments where you just won't be able to master it. What matters is what you do afterwards. Are you regretting what you did?
There's a long pause when they ask that, and Dari avoids eye contact in any way possible, stares down at the dumpling he took a bite out of.
You see that he picks up on this and is kind of busying throwing some dumplings down to Ikemba.
I think without a word, Dari shakes his head in a no.
Well, that's a start.
I suppose. He talked about my mum.
A lot of people are going to talk about a lot of things, Dari.
But why would no good person would speak ill of the dead? No good person should.
You know that there are very few good people here. You know that there's a price to gods, mortals.
I know.
The important thing is adaptability is strength. As long as you learn to handle what's coming to you, then perhaps you can make something out of it.
Adaptability is strength. Yeah, I know that, but it's just, I suppose it's harder than it sounds. Maybe even harder for me specifically. I don't know.
You know what would help if you eat more of these dumplings that I made?
I'll eat more. Thank you. Thank you, Heath. And I'll take a couple more. I'll finish the one that I took a bite out of before taking another bite of another. He might killed the god of mischief.
I know. I could feel it when you walked in. I don't judge you for it, if that means anything.
Honestly, I don't know if it means anything. I feel like part of me thinks you should. Part of me really doesn't want you to either, so I don't know.
Matter of fact is this. You're still here. And you, even if you lost control, have the power to continue to make decisions. What are you going to do now?
I think again, I stare down at the remaining dumplings on this tray. Again, avoiding eye contact with him. Zhangnan said that it is hard to turn to a new page, a new chapter, when you know that someone's going to be missing from it. For me, that someone is my mother. And there's only one person I can blame for that.
So you want to hunt down your father?
Again, a silent nod.
All right, well, that's the plan. We can do something about it. But I want you to remember, becoming stronger doesn't start on the training field. It begins in your head. So you've got to make a plan. You have the fortunate position of knowing a few people. So you've got options.
Yes. I figured out, and then I suppose without truly intending to, proved that there is a way to, at the very least, make the gods feel threatened. I think I might. She probably wants to see me anyway, but might see if I can find the god of compromise.
See a wolfish grin taking Heem's face, and he cocks an eyebrow at you and picks up green tea and begins to slurp on it slowly.
Why do you have that look on your face?
I just remember the last time that you went to go see Tyub, the god of compromise. You came back and couldn't walk straight.
Okay. Yeah, well. Yeah, I really have nothing to say to that.
That's fine. No comment necessary. Just saying, good luck. Have fun.
This is a business. It's going to be just business.
Okay. All right. Well, I have to get the place cleaned up and ready. The kids will be here in an hour or so, probably.
Well, tell you when I said hi. I probably won't be able to stick around too long. I'll take some more dumplings as I take some more and pile onto my plate. It was good talking to you, Hume.
We cut to seeing you beginning to walk out of the estate, and Heem is waving in the background. The morning light is just glistening off of his 10-pack and his bulging biceps. And Ikemba lingers for a moment at the threshold of the Two-Hearted Hideaway, and in a moment of reluctance peels away and then begins to run after you. And as Ikemba joins your side, you see that glow slowly beginning to fade. And though golden, is no longer beaming with some sort of internal light. You begin to make your way home. What does home look like for you?
It is an assortment of apartments, all almost like made into almost like a square or circle, clearly made before the coming forth of the river, place for people of slightly lower income to live in. You can see that it's in a bit of disarray. There are some overgrown bushes, the grass and the likes in the front garden around it is definitely overgrown. You see weeds and the like growing through the cracks in the pavement. But it also seems like it was paused in that state, like it was over time naturally becoming more and more run down, but for some whatever reason it suddenly stopped. So you can see that, or at least Ikemba knows this, that parts of the buildings that should have been long ago smoothed out by weathering are still fresh and rough, as if they've just been broken or exposed to the elements. And he's aware of why that is the case, or rather who he has to thank for that, for the stopping of this decay. And he braces himself, readies himself mentally and physically as he walks towards these flat apartments. And his specific apartment is probably on the mid to top floor. So he walks in, climbs up the stairs. Every footstep seems to echo around because there is very few carpets or cushioning. It's almost concrete and marble and the like along the walls and the ground. And I think they don't even expect to get to their front door before coming across the person that they plan on seeing for business reasons.
Yes, in fact, you see someone that draws your attention immediately. This person is about 6'5". They are dressed very smartly in attire that is very unusual, very hard to come by in a place like this. Pressed into neat lines, almost like a suit, with an oversized collar that doesn't have buttons and it swoops down into a deep V. You see her hair, first and foremost, this wild blue, mangled mess that is shoved over to one side, unkempt, and shows off the shorn temple on the other, the very many piercings that they wear, jewelry gaudy and brilliant. You see that they don't notice you, though you notice them. And they begin to head into a building down the road. And you know that to be the Rose House. It was once a courthouse that has been repurposed into a library, a bank, a trading center. And it waits for you. And you have the moment here to choose. Do you go to the Rose House or do you go home?
Again, I stand at this crossroads and take a deep breath. Okay. And I'll go to the Rose House.
Okay. I think that this will be a great time for us to take a quick break. So please join us in doing some stretchies, grabbing some water, a snack, and we'll be back in about 10 minutes.
Hello, transplay nerds and new friends alike. Do you want to play TTRPGs but aren't sure where to start? Maybe you don't have a GM or players or a consistent schedule that everyone can stick to. Whatever your obstacles might be, I've got a solution for you. Start playing games. And by that, I mean the website, startplaying.games. Start Playing is the largest online platform for players to find a playgroup and professional GMs for any game system and any virtual tabletop. Over 20,000 players have found their playgroup through startplaying.games. Game masters set their own price, ranging from free sessions to paid adventures, and their search functionality allows you to sort games by system, length, schedule, and price. You can sign up with a group of friends or meet new ones through startplaying.games. Whether you're brand new to RPGs, a seasoned veteran, or just curious about what's out there, startplaying.games has you covered. Sign up for a free account today by using !StartPlaying in chat. And without further ado, let's get right into it.
Welcome back, everyone. Just as a quick reminder, Godkiller is a dark fantasy series that contains content that may be triggering to some viewers. Content warnings for this episode include fantasy violence, blood, gore, complex and complicated relationships, body horror, animal corpses, death of loved ones, grief, sexual favors, immolation, mortal injuries, and murder. You can use !CW at any time in the chat to get a full list of these content warnings. As you begin to make your way over to the Rose house, Dari, you are freshly showered and you are in a new outfit. As you're approaching, what does your outfit look like? Because it will actually really matter for this next part.
I believe it is I think I'm bad with fabrics, but I believe it's almost like satin, kind of like blood red satin top, very loose and kind of baggy, but very much meant to be. Very deep V cut that goes down below their chest. You can see hints of scars and bruises from his general day-to-day of having been in fights, but also the most recent fight he's been in. Again, black slim fit jeans, can only be described as thick combat boots, and several rings that he wears on his fingers, all silver, and of course he always has his earring in his right ear and his silver wristwatch on his left wrist, as he walks towards the Rose house. I think instinctually catches himself trying to fix himself and just goes, doesn't matter, it's business. It's business.
It's just business. You enter this repurposed courthouse. You are met with the floral sweet breath that is in this living, breathing place. You see that there are fireplaces carved out of marble, velvet comfort in every corner of every room. There's always a mobile bar in every chamber of this place. Golden trays with effervescent potions of soft charisse. And there is a unique quality to this domain, a subtle chill in the air, just enough to coax goosebumps, but not enough to send a shiver through you. It's almost a kiss of cold that would make any heated touch of any person linger. You step inside and your footsteps ring amongst the large lobby of this place, and you can hear the click, click, click of heels, very familiar to you, distant, up the stairs, towards the back. Around you, you can see that there are a few people at work. Shelves have been built into the lobby here, and it serves as a type of library where people can come and access knowledge. So you see that there are librarians at work, and they look at you.
I'm just here. You know why I'm here. I'm just guessing she went to the back, upstairs.
The librarian looks you up and down and goes, mm-hmm. Continues sorting the books.
I instinctually cover up a little bit because I imagine that librarian has maybe seen a bit more of me, to no fault of my own, but the God of Compromise often compromises on where we do business. I quickly, again, break eye contact and walk toward the sound of the clicking heels.
At what pace do you follow after the sound?
I think initially quite fast, but only to get out of the situation of the librarian giving me a side eye. The moment I'm out of eyesight of them, I return to a more casual pace.
Okay. You climb the stairs with some haste and you begin to head towards the back of the courthouse. You hear the sound of a door close and you are certain you know which one. You begin to approach. It is a heavy oak door with a gilded frame. You see that the knob has been replaced so that it is made of crystal. You know this to be the favored dwelling of the God of Compromise, also known as Tayyub. Tayyub is an interesting individual. You know that the God of Compromise is essentially one of contracts, one that keeps receipts, but is reasonable. They appeal to the sense of logic and mutual beneficial arrangements over anything else. You suspect that the spirit of agreements, something where both sides can benefit, is what feeds this god. You've never seen Tayyub's true form. Her heart remains elusive to you. But you know that this is one of her favorites. And you, as you brush off the air of embarrassment of slight insecurity from the librarian having noticed you, you briefly remember the one time that Tayyub took on a more bestial and feral form. What do you do at the door?
I turn to Ikemba and scratch his head and just say, "You wait out here," and pat his head.
Ikemba sits up straight, has fortunately begun to settle a little bit and is more of his natural shape. And he looks out towards the entrance of the court.
And again, he kind of fixes himself, his clothing, and again goes, "Just business." And I will knock on the door.
You knock on the door, and there is something about this door where even if it was just a gentle rap of the knuckles, it goes bang, bang, bang. And very casually, there's a...
"You may enter."
Again, a deep breath, and I'll enter, grasping the crystal doorknob as I push in.
As you enter in, you see what seems to be something of an office. There are plush leather couches, there's a mahogany desk, and elaborate paintings up on every single wall here. There has been no expense of garishness and decoration in this dwelling. You know that Tayyub loves things, loves collecting, and she has no subtlety whatsoever when it comes to displaying them. You see that she is currently seated behind her desk. Her feet are up on it and you can see her heels, and she is holding what appears to be a collection of letters in her hand.
"Dari?"
Tayyub, you seem comfortable. as I will walk over and take a seat, probably leaning on the desk, I think.
Make yourself comfortable. I certainly am. What is it that brings you here this time?
I think almost instinctually I look at a clock, but I'm fully aware of what time I will see, and shake my head before turning back to Tayob and say, I was hoping you had some information.
You look at the clock and it reads 6:10. Taiyub's eyes follow yours to the clock, but she doesn't seem to make much of it, looking right back to you.
Well, I'm sorry, I lost myself in my papers. What is it that you wanted? Information?
Yes.
Okay.
On the God of Time.
The God of Time. Alright, let's see. I know better than to ask questions.
She begins to straighten up. She puts the letters down and she opens the desk. She begins to pull out a jar, and the jar is filled with these roiling lights and tendrils. She opens it and begins to pull one out. And you see what is a writhing mass of tentacles, and she begins to spread it out on the desk in front of her. She says,
Information about gods comes at a great price. You know the drill. Something of equal value to me.
I think this will be the moment where I take an actual seat opposite her, equal to the location of a god. Information for information.
Well, you do know that I covet information most. Tell me yours first.
I lean forward.
and as you lean forward, you see that she grips one of the tentacles and it begins to wrap around her arm. And opposite from her, a tentacle reaches out to you. It is this spectral, gelatinous kind of mass. And you would know from your previous engagements that this is divine magic, and it is binding. It is something that cannot be broken.
I, knowing how this works, will reach out as well to let it wrap around my arm, and I'll lean in, I think closer than I really needed to. I think the moment I realize that is too late, so I just hold that position and say, you might hear it soon, but you'll be hearing it first. The god of mischief, Shangnan, is dead.
You see that she instinctively seems to lean forward with you, an inappropriate distance away from you. You can feel her hot breath on your face, and you can smell the perfume in her hair. But you sense something uncomfortable in the closeness as soon as you mention the god of mischief. Her eyes narrow and she looks at you with some measure of skepticism. But her eyes look down to this binding divine creature. And there's no way that you could offer a lie. She would know. She would see right through the deception if it were untrue. A moment passes. Thoughtfully, she says,
Very well. There is benefit to knowing this in advance. The god of mischief has been a thorn in my side for some time. I would like a little more information before I give you what you seek.
I think again, I catch myself, but I think at this point I don't resist it. I get closer, and my eyes definitely linger on her lips for a moment before they move to her eyes, and they say, I killed the god of mischief.
Light fills her eyes and her brows raise in surprise. She almost seems to look beyond you, beyond this moment, considering something unspoken.
Good. This is very good. I think it's only fair that I respond in kind. You seek the god of time. Well, he is unsurprisingly simple. He's at the heart of it all.
Near the river.
She smiles. Bertel?
I think there's a moment flashing back to having quite literally walked by the river not once but twice in just the past couple of days.
Yeah, you were disturbingly close to it. You remember the cold of the river and the surrounding area. You must have walked right by him. Sometimes these gods, the skins they wear, they're hiding in plain sight. Think about all of the dozens of times you've traveled all across Yolam, north, south, east, west. And he was right there.
I lean back, releasing this tentacle and allow it to fall back.
You see, as you release it, it slops onto the desk, lifeless, expended, and the same does on Tayub. And it begins to flatten out into a liquid.
Walked past there. I don't even know how many times at this point over the few years, and twice just the day before.
I will admit I'm curious to why you seek the god of time of all there are to choose. Why did you kill the god of mischief?
There's silence as Dari, I think, fidgets uncomfortably in their chair. I got angry. I was only meant to scare him, but I'm sure you know he's one to run his mouth and find the things that can get under your skin, and I think he succeeded, but more than he anticipated.
You see her sit back quite smartly, and she goes,
Ha! I know better than anyone. You know, I did read in a book once something that's stuck with me. Someone once said that anger is sadness that had nowhere to go for a very long time. What do you think of that, Dari?
I don't know. Haven't really put much thought into that, but maybe it's right. Maybe it's onto something. For what I know, it could be completely wrong. But finding the God of Time will fix that, I think.
Very well. You humans continue to perplex and amuse me all the same. Why is it that you do those things that you do? I just hope that the God of Time does not smite you. You are one of my favorites.
Suppose you're one of my favorites too. Yep.
She remains cool and mostly unfazed by this. You see the corner of her mouth curl ever so slightly. And she steeples her hands together.
Now that you know where the God of Time is, what will you do next?
I think I have some planning to do, but I'm in no rush, at least not now, now that I know where he is.
All right. Well, best of luck, unless there's other business you were intending for.
I think as she says that, he makes a very, I think, very obvious, very clear, and again he catches himself doing this, but looks Taiyab up and down, before looking away, and yes, is it so wrong to want some company?
Well, I am hungry, and you know that I like a very specific kind of company.
So with that, as Taiyab invites you into some fun arrangement here, she will basically offer you something in return for hand-holding and smoochies. However, what would you like in exchange? You know that Taiyab doesn't do anything without a price, and it
Yes.
must be mutually beneficial to both parties.
I think I want the location, but I think I would also want, if she knows it, I know the criteria of killing a god now.
Yes.
I want to know the downfall of the God of Time, or at the very least where I can find and learn his downfall.
Well, I am quite surprised that you even know what that is, but I'll save my questions for another time. I unfortunately don't know the answer to that, but I can tell you that the answers you seek can be found with the God of Secrets. It is not a casual thing to ask for a god's downfall.
Yes, no, I understand that.
And you
Even I
should be
knew.
careful with asking such things. You will make quick enemies.
I'll keep that in mind. Now, for your payment,
And brown chicken, wow, wow, fade to black. It's fun. At some point, she polymorphs. It gets a little freaky. It's fun. And then you are essentially kicked out of the office. The door slams shut behind you. What do you look like? What is the state of you as Ikemba looks at you?
I think. Oh boy, I'm a mess. Very clearly. I'm fixing my top as I kind of stagger out. I think Tyab had a little bit of mercy on me, just so I could still walk straight. But this time, I think he even kind of saw this coming because even in my blood red satin shirt, you can't really see the small stains of the intense scratches that Tayob gave, and some bite marks as well. Nothing major, but it's clear that she likes inflicting pain, and Dari is good at taking it.
A librarian walks by, just just clears their throat, doesn't make eye contact.
Okay, I button up a little bit higher after seeing them. But yeah, her hair is a mess. There is no hiding the bites along his neck, and you can definitely see a little bit of some of the bites and scratches along his back. But he looks to Kemba, who I imagine, despite being a dog, seems to give a knowing look as well.
Yes, you just see it behind those eyes. So you have been given a direction. You have not been to Southholm very often. If you can't even remember the last time that you were there, whatever reason it was, it is the most remote of the sanctuaries, and you know that it is going to be quite a bit of travel to get there. You go back home, you ready yourself, and as you begin to make your way towards Southholm, ready to face the wilderness of Yalom, you are passing by the river once again. As you approach this cold wasteland here, you still see the worshippers at the foot of this frozen monolith. They all ignore you.
I think this time I have almost like a scarf around my face, and almost like wearing it almost like a hood, and very deliberately trying to walk by and not be seen or noticed. I think, of course, this is hard with Ikemba. He's a creature that doesn't often pass by, and when he is around, it's very obvious that Dari is around too. But despite that, I think he's doing his best to keep out of sight. If there are any sort of passages or any sort of way to hide himself, he'll be taking those routes and doing the best he can to do so. And we'll just go right past it without looking, searching right past the river.
Okay. You choose to not seek out the god of time in this moment?
Yes.
Okay. You pull into yourself and try to make yourself small and unnoticeable, and you pass by without any difficulty whatsoever, just like the dozens of times that you have before, and you make your way south. As you approach Southholm, you see the Shadow Sea. The Shadow Sea shores all of Yolam. Thick gray fog rolling over the solemn beaches that border the void beyond the cradle. There is no story of what lies beyond the Shadow Sea. No one has ever left and returned to talk about it. The furthest of points from the river is the end of the world, a single, well-maintained wooden dock anchored at the southernmost point of Yolam. This is all that makes Southholm. There is one building here, a squat metal paneled house, and you know who lives in that house. A young woman by the name of Sari, priestess of the God of Secrets.
I walk up to this house, and I don't believe I've been here often or even at all, most likely. So I'm taking in as much as I can of these surroundings, keeping on edge, especially after the warning that Tyab gave of asking these kind of questions. And he's already aware that gods have a tendency of knowing more than what you said. So even that is enough for him to be on edge a little bit. And he walks up to this house and will knock.
You knock and you hear the clambering of things falling, metal crashing, a pot breaking, and the scrambling of feet. Someone startled on the other side. The door yanks open, and you see a young woman, perhaps about 20 years old, with short black hair and wide doe-like eyes. She is disheveled, wearing the equivalent of something like pajamas, clearly not expecting a visitor. And she fixes her large spectacles, which are askew, and she says, "Oh, hi.
Hello.
What do you want? Wait,
Oh.
Do I know you? No.
I don't think we've met. No, I'm Dari, and he'll put out a hand.
She looks at your hand and she pinches one of your fingers to look on either side of it. And then under it, hi, and she shakes it.
Hi. Were you looking for something?
I don't know. Just it's sometimes good to double check just in case. She leans out the door, looks to the left, looks to the right, looks down at Ikemba. Is it just you?
Yes, just me and Ikemba.
Okay. She begins to shuffle out of her house and she closes the door behind her in that very obvious way of like, don't look at what's inside there.
Yeah.
And just very quietly the door clicks closed and she is just wearing a 2-piece pajama set, barefoot. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I didn't think you'd be the one I'll be running into. I'm hoping to speak with or commune with the God of Secrets.
Oh, she visibly deflates. Yeah. Yes, you can do that. Why?
I apologize if this seems a bit much, but I think that might be between me and I suppose your God.
Fair enough. Well, I suppose she folds her hands behind her back and looks around, looks down towards the single dock that is to her right, your left. She gestures over. Perhaps you can pray for guidance.
That's the only way?
That is not the only way, but that is what I am suggesting in this moment. And she adjusts her glasses.
What is the other way?
I don't want to tell you.
Why? I need to speak to them, please. Do I need to pay? I can give you money if that's what I need to do.
Oh, I don't need money. No.
So what do I need to do to learn the other way?
She rocks on her heels and you can see that she's growing increasingly uncomfortable. And it's in this moment that you're kind of surveying the area. There are only two things of interest here, the dock and the house. And you know this to be a house for a worshiper of the god of secrets, perhaps the only worshiper of the god of secrets. So you're kind of able to put two and two together that this house is kind of technically a shrine. So perhaps
They're in
you
there.
can do something fun. Maybe they're in there. Maybe this is a sacred place.
I think there's a moment of frustration on Dari's face, especially when they suggest praying to this god. And he shakes his head and sighs, goes, "Okay, I'll pray. And if they don't show up, what do I do then?"
Well, I can't help you.
Okay. Thank you for your help.
Yeah.
And I don't even hide the annoyance in my voice on my face. I walk over to the dock.
You see them like pulling off their glasses and cleaning it. They're just like watching you leave. Yeah, as you get to the dock, it is pretty unremarkable in design. It's just a dock, and perhaps somewhere you can kneel looking out into the shadow sea, this dark abyss of mist and fog that just extends forever in all directions, and you don't know what's on the other side.
I, again, stand at the end of the dock and take a moment before kneeling and bow my head and close my eyes. And I think first in my heart, my mind, reach out to the god of secrets, just thinking, I wish to speak with you. God of secrets.
Are you doing this with like great desperation? Is it kind of like what sort of emotion is behind this? How invested are you in this?
Not invested even in the slightest. I think it's like he really doesn't want to do this and he's doing it anyway. And I think like that feeling of I have to do this inconvenient thing, let me just get it over and done with, is kind of what kind of saturates this quote unquote prayer.
You do not feel anything reaching out to you. There is no moment of revelation here, no whispered voices that come join you. You do feel the weight of someone watching you, and it's pretty clearly that the priestess is just staring at the back of your head.
Yeah. I think I repeat it again in my heart and then out loud, but it's just dripping with annoyance. Just, I said I would like to speak with you, God of secrets.
It might help if you kneel.
I turn around and just stare daggers at the priestess before
Down on your knees.
kneeling on my knees. Probably a little bit bruised, but we won't talk about that.
And you can throw something into the water, generally something nice.
I will take off one of the rings I have on my fingers and toss it into the water.
And then
God.
as we hear the bloop of the ring hitting the water and beginning to sink, all of a sudden you hear the voice of the priestess over your shoulder, leaning over, somehow impossibly silent as they close that distance in such great speed. Oh, that was a nice one. Yeah. I think he'll like that one.
Okay. Are you not meant to give some space when someone's praying?
Oh, you're right. I'm so sorry. She takes a step back, and that's it.
Okay. And I'll turn back to face the mist and the water and close my eyes one more time and say, God of Secrets, I wish to speak with you.
And it's in that moment that you feel a cold at your back. And the priestess says to you in a voice that audibly breaks,
And what would you say to me?
I sigh as I'm relieved that there's an answer, but then now realize who is directly behind me. You keep secrets, and I would like to know one.
I keep more than one secret.
Can we speak in your turn around to face the priestess?
the priestess just wiggles her fingers at you. She physically looks unchanged.
My eyes narrow a little bit before drifting over to the shrine or the home and say, can we speak in your shrine?
The priestess opens her mouth and you hear that broken voice again.
We are.
And all of a sudden you blink and you are inside of a stone room made of dark tile all the way around. There's a single chair, a bench. It is backless with armrests that swoop up into these elaborate engraved fixtures. There are black candles lit on either side of the room that produce a purple flame. It engulfs the room in a strange cold, even with the flame. And sitting in front of you is a short individual. You see that they appear to be about 4'5" in height on the shorter side. They are wearing a baggy black sweatshirt, black sweatpants, red sneakers, and they have on a mask over their face. And you feel this power radiating off of them.
I think I'm still on my knees at this moment as we've suddenly appeared or have always been in this space, as instinctively lean back at this sudden change of environment and this sudden presence in front of me before I get up onto my feet. Before I ask for what I'm about to ask for, will you tell anyone what I came here to do?
Yes.
I suppose I can't be surprised if I expect you to tell me a secret. Why not tell mine as well? That's fine, but I need knowledge that I think only you can have and would be willing to give about the... And when I look around, can I see the priestess? Is she in this room?
No, you don't see any doors. It's just the two of you. You don't see Akemba either.
Okay. Well, I want to know... I want to know everything there is to know about the God of Time. Every secret he holds close to his chest.
The price for this is time. I will take from you 10 years of time.
Again, there's, I think, surprise. I don't think that is a response even Dari expected from them. And his hesitation as well. 10 years of time is a lot. But they still themselves clench their jaw and their fists and silently nod. Take it.
You don't feel anything, but you begin to hear a voice whispering in the back of your head, almost as if someone's right behind you, though you see this being in front of you, and they say,
The heart of time.
scrolling through my notes, hold on, where did I put it? Ah, okay.
The heart of time is the river itself. The downfall is a reflection made outside of time.
What's that mean outside of time? Dari mutters to himself. I think almost despite the incredible power coming from this god before them, almost immediately acts as if they're not even there anymore as they delve into their own mind, trying to understand what that last part could mean. Yeah, reflection made outside of time.
As you say these words under your breath, you say them to the beach, and you find yourself on the dock again. Ikemba is waiting by the house. The priestess is gone. You are on your knees.
Reflection made outside of time. And I'll get onto my feet, brushing myself off. And I think now everything suddenly becomes, for lack of a better term, real. Now he has everything he needs and gave up a lot for it. And now he has to act. And I think that weighs on him in a way that he didn't anticipate.
As you are feeling this knot in your gut, anchoring you to the reality of the situation, you look down at your watch. It is 6:10. You look down at your feet and you are standing on the welcome mat of your mother's home. The house is quiet. You know that there will not be the smell of breakfast, the sound of the pan hitting the stove, the sound of the wooden chair being drug out. What once filled this home is gone. 6:10 a.m.
I reach out for the doorknob, and I think even before I can even twist it to push the door open, I rest my head against the door and just cry right outside the front door of my late mother's place.
You cry. There's no one to welcome you in. The door holds you up, but it offers you no comfort. You don't know how much time passes by. You are standing there and you can hear the sounds of people behind you moving down the street, but they don't stop. Maybe they look. You don't see them. You look down at your watch again, and instead, your feet is on grass. The cart is in the stable. The last time you ever used one, 6:10 p.m. She fell asleep, leaning against you.
I walk up to the cart and take a seat, and again at 6:10 p.m. I cry.
No one hears you cry. You sit there in the dark of the stable. You hear the sound of the oversized chickens moving about outside, scratching at the dirt. But no one opens the barn. No one goes to check. You aren't sure how much time you spend there. But eventually you look back at your watch. It's 6:10. You're standing on a dock at the end of the world.
I walk over to Ikemba and crouch down and scratch behind his ears.
Bark, bark.
There's a smile plastered on my face, but it doesn't reach the eyes. As I think of it as stealing myself, but I think I deadened something in me before standing up again. And without saying a word even to Ikemba, I'll start walking towards the direction of the river.
It is dark when you make it to the river. You head towards the heart of Yolam, and again you see this blue light washing over this clearing. There are people on their knees revering this unmoving, frozen monolith of something that was, something that isn't anymore. And you stand right at the edge of it. You feel the cold air washing over you, pushing against that scarf you're wearing. You feel it biting into your skin. The river itself is in front of you, surrounded by a ring of humans.
This ability I've had to understand, gauge the energy, life force, time someone had within them I've been able to block it out, to turn it off. Like, it can be overwhelming, and for a while I considered it a breach of privacy. It was none of my business to know these kind of things about people. But I consciously turn that on, and I'm going to look across these people revering this river, the heart, and try to identify someone with more energy than a mortal should.
Okay. We will use a divine move here. Recognize a god. When you want to recognize the signs or influence of a god of the cradle, roll 2d6. You can add 1 for each true statement. You are in or near their domain. You are familiar with their gospel. It'll be bad if you didn't know. I would say you're unfamiliar with the gospel, but you are in their domain, and it would be
Yes.
bad if you didn't know. So that is a
Yeah.
+2.
Okay. Confirm. Okay. A 7.
Okay. All right. On a hit, you competently interpret the omens. Ask your GM a single question of your choosing, and they must answer honestly.
A single question. Is that other than knowing where they are, or would it be knowing where they are be a question that I need to ask?
You get 1 question.
Okay. My question is, where are they right now amongst these people? Or where are they right now?
Okay, you ask where are they right now. You are looking over these people. They have put themselves in such a position by being here, by choosing to be here, that they are in great distress, and they are robbing themselves of health and of safety. And you look among them and you see an old man. He is on his knees, curled in on himself, and you see that he has frazzled hair, a large beard that straps his chin, that disappears into ragged clothing. He is unkempt, he is dirty. He looks just like everyone else. But you know that man, there's something different about him.
Without a word, I snap my fingers and point down to tell Ikemba to stay where he is at this spot. And I will walk over to this old man, and beside him I will kneel down and face this frozen river, this tower of glass. And I'll remain there silent for a moment, not even looking at this man, eyes locked on this, to him, source of pain.
He doesn't even seem to notice you. He's looking up. He's crying softly.
Again, I speak hushed tones, and again, not looking at him, eyes locked on this frozen river. And I say, I never understood why so many people revered this place. And now that I understand the nature of it more, my disdain for it has only grown.
You don't get a response. They continue to ignore you. Maybe they don't hear you. They continue to cry.
I think I don't raise my voice. Again, I don't look. I don't even wait for any gaps or pauses in their sobbing. I look up at this frozen river and say, I've heard quite a few tales of this river that the gods spilled from. My mother met my father here.
It sounds like you're trying to challenge someone dangerous.
Yeah,
Okay.
I am.
This is a divine move. When you challenge someone dangerous in front of an audience, there's a lot of people here, say what foolish or risky action you hope they'll take. Roll a 2d6. You can add 1 true for each statement. 1, they care about your opinion. 2, they think they're stronger than you. 3, the crowd is on your side. I'm going to say they think they're stronger than you, and the other 2 don't apply here.
Yeah, that's fair. And a foolhardy thing I'm trying to get them to do, and you can correct me if this is counts as foolhardy or not, but I want them to just drop the act. I want them to reveal that they are the god I'm looking for, and to just face me.
Okay. I think this totally counts. So go ahead and roll me 2d6 plus 1.
Okay. Plus 1. 8.
Okay. Your target rises to the bait. Here, all of a sudden, this old man turns to look at you, and you realize that there's something unusual about his eyes. His eyes have these strange circles in them, almost geometric in design. There appears to be a single thin circle and a dot that orbits around it, almost like a golden pupil. And these clockwork eyes look up at you, and you see that the tears are not real. All of a sudden, they lunge forward and they grab you by the throat. And they don't choke you, but it is enough to push you away from them. And as they push you back, they begin to rise. And you see an old man standing.
So you recognize me? You choose to finally speak. It's been a long time.
Who are you? What is it that you want with me?
I think I circle this old man almost with a look of a predator circling their prey, despite the very clear power difference. Dari's in a headspace where they don't care about that. They finally found and cornered the person that so much of their suffering is the origin of. I want an explanation, and based on that, we'll see what I want from you next.
You see that they begin to straighten up, standing at a much greater height than they were before, perhaps about 6'5" now. And though their current form is quite gangly, long-limbed, and frail, they look at you with dead eyes and they say, I don't owe you anything. I don't even know who you are.
I walk up to him looking up at him. I'm only 6 foot. He towers over me. But I look up at him and say, I don't have your eyes, but I have my mother's. Do you recognize those?
He looks you in the eyes, and you see him leaning forward, almost craning as he gets uncomfortably close. What do you think that means anything to me? I am the god of time. You are a boy. You are small. Who are you to think that you could do anything to someone like me?
There is almost a manic look in Dari's eyes as he says this. And there's again a burning sensation in their chest and their throat as it takes almost everything in their power to stop themselves from letting out the most venomous laugh. And I think, again, almost mirror to this god in front of him, I think there's something in his eyes that deaden. Almost like there was some kind of inkling that maybe there was something to be had here, to be talked about, discussed here, but that dies very quickly. As I step back, I turn my back to him fully and take a few steps away.
As you do, he laughs at you, and his laughter rings out. You see some of the people around break from this trance to behold the two of you. And the god of time says to you, "You don't even mean anything. You make no sense. You don't exist here. You don't exist there. Who will remember you?"
I'm not looking to be remembered. The only person who I cared about who would have remembered me, you took from me.
Everything is taken in time. And you see that he also begins to take a step away from you.
The moment he clenches his jaw, again, everything in his power to keep some level of civility isn't even the word, just control himself. You look at me like I'm nothing.
You are nothing. Look at all these people. What use does anyone have for someone like you?
But there's one thing I can agree with, Father, but many people loved and needed my mother, and you took her from me. You are a walking natural disaster, and you knew that, and you left her to suffer those consequences. Every day she wanted you to come back, but you left her broken and withered because of you. and you couldn't even give her that peace.
You hear this twisted, garbled noise deep in his chest, and it escapes him in something like a laugh. It echoes out. You see some of the people who are kneeling begin to cover their ears at this grating sound, this hacking noise coming from the god of time. And he continues to step back. More distance between the two of you.
I think the moment I register that as a laugh, I forfeit any control I was trying to give, and I charge at him.
Okay. All right. It sounds like you want to inflict violence here.
Yes, I would like to inflict great violence.
All right. When you inflict violence on someone, roll 2d6, add 1 for each true statement. They worship a god that wishes you harm. You're desperate. It's personal. Don't think the first one applies, but
yeah, no, the first one doesn't apply, but it's definitely personal. Am I desperate? Yeah, I think I'm desperate.
okay. Go
Yeah.
ahead and roll me 2d6 plus 2.
Seven.
7. Okay. On a hit, this part of the fight ends on your terms. All right. So describe to me what it looks like as you engage the god of time in combat.
I very suddenly move with incredible speeds and slam into him into a tackle. My shoulder buries into the very base of his spine as I try and take him down. And I move with such speed, it is unnatural. It's almost best to describe as a peak athlete, but boosted almost twice that much as they move through how he understands it as time easier and more fluidly than others can, and slam into this god, taking him down to the ground, and in a blind rage is just throwing punches and kicks. Despite the rage, he shows some form in his punches and kicks, as if he has some kind of training in fighting, but it is definitely anger driven, all of it.
You feel the fire of your anger well to blistering heights, and as you are pummeling into the god of time here, what do the people around you see? What do the mortal eyes see as they witness this moment?
They see, for a moment, they see Dari in one place, maybe a good 10, 15 feet away from this old man. And so then very suddenly he's right in front of the old man, and then on top of the old man punching over and over again. And to everyone else, it's not that they even saw him move quickly. Most of them are probably convinced that they looked away long enough for him to close that distance, or they were busy looking elsewhere when he made that distance. They can't quite comprehend how it happened, but what they end up seeing after that initial closing of a distance is just a young man in the mid-20s punching a older man.
Yeah,
over again.
as they witness this, there's a peal of gasps and disbelief that washes over the crowd here. As you are throwing your fists into him, all of a sudden you are thrown back with explosive force. You hear the wet sounds of flesh slopping down onto the ground as the body of this old man explodes in a violent and visceral mass. A blood red mist washes over you as you see from the bones of what was this old man is what can only be described as a bronze skeletal creature. It almost seems like a construct of some kind, long spindly arms and legs as it reaches to its full height, 8 feet in front of you. And you see where it has a golden skull, those very same clockwork eyes look down at you as the god of time reveals their true form.
You took my mother from me and I'm going to enact justice. Make sure you don't do this to anyone else, because no one else deserves to suffer this pain or go through what my mother did.
I will enjoy swallowing you whole. I will reclaim your time.
I, again, without another word, dive at this creature, this construct. And as I'm closing that distance, I'm going to pull out that dagger made out of glass and mirror and use that as an extra implement as I try to enact violence on this construct.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and roll to inflict violence again. We'll do another +2 here.
Yeah. Okay. Ugh. Okay. 10.
Okay, on a 10+, you lose yourself to righteous fury. The GM will tell you the costs of your divinity. So you are able to inflict great violence onto the physical form of the god here. However, you will get the sense that even though you're tearing at the body of it, you're not weakening the god whatsoever. However, your anger is consuming you. What does this look like?
There is, as I leap again, almost every part of my movement is, it's incredible. It's near inhuman. As I leap up to land a punch in the face of this thing, try to drag it down to the ground as I hack and slash and kick and punch at every part of it. Some small part of me knowing that it's doing absolutely nothing, but relishing and enjoying the violence of it all anyway. And this manifests, I think, as the eyes that I had just claimed and almost proudly claimed that I got from my mother, one of them begins to deaden, and almost like the pupil and the iris on it were painted or inked, start to wash away to reveal an eye very similar to the gods of time. Very geometric, with circles within circles and a golden pupil orbiting it. And behind me, with every step, there's almost like the ground isn't sure what time it is in. Some footprints that leave behind, it looks like it's years in the past when this area was flourishing with greenery. Other times it seems like it's left even deader, more desiccated than it is now, with cracks forming. It's becoming increasingly clear that, and very hard to ignore, that Dari is more than just a mortal, but he's too much in a rage to even care or even consider that as a problem, as he's throwing and landing fruitless punches and kicks and stabs and slashes against this.
Yeah, you find that this particular weapon, it seems to make a great purchase. It is incredibly indestructible. You don't see that it breaks or chips with every gouge that you put into this brass body here. And as you are releasing your righteous fury, you can sense fear rising around the people that are beholding this moment. You feel the cold, lifeless fingers of the God of Time's hand as it grabs your shoulder and throws you aside as it finally manages to grab purchase of you. The construct is heaving, and you hear a series of grinding and clicks as it begins to reconfigure in front of you. The arms begin to shorten, and the shifting form of the God of Time is something more squat, more sturdy, more disc-like. And it begins spinning violently in place, almost like a saw, and it looks like it's about to lunge towards you. You get the sense that this is not how you kill a god. This pure violence is not going to bring you to the end that you seek here.
I hit the ground and roll a little bit before catching my footing again, looking up at this new form that this god has taken. I still guided by rage, but maybe not so much blinded by it. Not just, at least for this split second, I look up at the river, the frozen river, and I yell out at the gods and say, if you were listening, I said I always saw this thing with much disdain, but now with its origin, knowing what it is, that disdain's only grown. Father, I know what this is to you.
As you say that, the saw begins to spin even more violently. It begins to shift on multiple axes, and it begins to spherically spin upon itself in a rage, and it begins to wind up and launches towards you with supernatural speed.
I will try to dodge.
Okay, let's see here. I think you're trying to tempt fate here.
Yeah.
When you tempt fate with your actions, say what perilous feat you're trying to accomplish. You're trying to escape the wrath of the God of Time after saying... Yeah. Okay, roll a 2d6, add 1 for each true statement. A skilled ally is lending you a hand. Nope. You have no other options. Yeah.
Yep.
You're not near the domain or agents of a god that wish you harm. Nope. +1.
Right in there. Okay.
Good luck.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. It can't be bad. It'll be great. Let's go.
Oh. That's some snake eyes right there. Oh my gosh. Okay. You attempt to dodge. You try to break away. And you see this mass of blades of brass indifference as it begins to cycle forward in a fury consuming. You hear a voice. It almost seems to slow down time. You're able to see it coming towards you in slow motion, and you're trying to move, but you're not quite able to push against it as quickly as you like. You hear his voice all too clearly.
You think you can master time? Foolish boy.
And it slams into you. I'm gonna go ahead and give you 3 strain here. As it cuts you up, you find that you are thrown back You're very heavily wounded, and there are sprays of blood across the ice here. Violence paints this battleground, and the people that behold are beginning to flee. You are very badly hurt. You see that as the god of time has barreled towards you, that other people have been cut down in the process. Believers, true worshippers, lay dead between you and the god as the god of time wheels around the river and is beginning to head back for another pass.
I'm on the ground writhing in pain. I don't think I expected a blow like that, and I think I was caught off guard at how difficult it was to move through the stream of time here. As I shakily try to get to my feet before they can go for another one, because I know I won't be able to handle another one, I'm going to sprint towards the river.
Okay. Sounds like you want to kill a god.
Yes.
Okay, this is a crucible move. When you confront a god in their true form and exploit their downfall to kill them, describe how you slay them and roll a 2d6. There's no bonuses on this one.
Yep.
You have in your hand a dagger made out of a mirror, and in front of you, the frozen river. What is your intent here?
I move as fast as I can, running to this frozen river, this tower of mystical unknown ice, and the whole time I'm yelling at the god of time, at Shigan, saying she loved you so much. Even when you left, all she could talk about, all she could think about was you, and hoping that you were doing well. But you left without a word, without anything. She suffered because of you, and you couldn't even be there to aid her. And now I can't even remember, I can't even tell when she died. Feeling the grief twofold. It's all because of you. Even your followers, your devout followers, can't live around you. You are a walking natural disaster, and I'm going to put an end to you so no one else has to suffer like I have, like my mother had. And I'm going to try to bury this dagger into the ice with my face in the reflection of it. And it's always the times of my mother's death for me. I'm always locked in that time.
Okay. Roll me a 2d6.
Okay. Okay. 8.
Okay. On a hit, they seize something vital from you as well. Name that vital part of yourself that you lose.
Oh, okay. As I say that I don't want anyone else to suffer the way I did, that I've had to suffer this grief twofold, 2 separate occasions that I can't tell is real or not, which is which. I think that wish of mine that no one else has to suffer like this is granted, but that includes me, and I lose the memories of my mother.
Okay. As you pierce into the frozen river, reflection shining off of the silvered glass of this blade, something begins to tremble underfoot. You aren't quite sure what happens next as the god of time slams into you, violence exploding against the side of your face, the side of your body. Pain is the last thing that you feel. As we pull out from your unconscious body, we see a crack form in the frozen river. It begins to go up, 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 spidering, webbing, and very many tiny fractures begin to envelop this frozen ice monolith as it spirals upwards towards the heavens. The god of time reconfigures as they stand beside you. They look up, and as they behold the river beginning to crack free, something from inside them begins to crumple. Their chest begins to implode as their hands crush underneath the weight of some invisible force, and they are reduced, made smaller and smaller, bent at unusual and uncomfortable angles. And as you are floating in and out of consciousness on the ground, completely broken, pained, the body of the god of time falls beside you, and the two of you are laying there, eyes to eyes, and you see golden blood beginning to pool around him, slowly bleeding into your own. You hear the sound of ice breaking. Enormous chunks of solidified water crashing down all around you, coming down in a mist and a rain. Your body can't quite move just yet. Your father begins to fade into the form of an old man. And he's crying, looking at you, perhaps honestly for the first time, the only time. He says, I never knew what to make of you. You don't exist here or there.
I think drifting in and out of consciousness, I shake my head, say, I didn't need you to. And then there's a look of confusion on my face as I feel the need to say something, but I don't know what it is I wanted to say.
You are timeless because you exist outside of time. We didn't mean to make you.
am a mistake that you now get to die by.
I curse you, child of time. Thou shalt not remember her. And his eyes closed. Atom by atom, he begins to dissolve before your eyes. There is a new sound. Water rushing.
I roll over onto my back, trying to steady my breathing. And collect myself as best as I can, despite the wounds that I'm suffering. And I think for reasons that I'm not even entirely sure of, I start to cry.
As you cry, you look up into the sky and you can see that the ice of the river has been broken through. The sound of water rushing is in fact rushing down from the heavens above you. And where you are, the water begins to pool all around you, and it is dispersing the bloody battlefield. It's pushing around chunks of ice that have fallen free, pushing aside the bodies of the worshippers that were unable to escape the carnage, pushing aside the golden blood, the decaying body of the god, pushing against you. And your tears, as they roll down your cheeks, disappear into this water that is forming all around you.
I think I stay there for a while, for a moment. I mean, drenched in this water, for shakily getting to my feet. And looking down at the body, the quickly decaying body of the god of time, my father. And I mourn him. The tears falling from my face that at first had no reason that I could think of for falling, they fall for him for a moment.
You cry. You're not quite sure how much time passes by. The water is pooling around you, and this natural wasteland around you has formed something of a basin. This frigid, ice-cold water is numbing, and it goes up to your knees at this point, and you are startled by the sound of Ikemba just outside the ring of the basin, barking for your attention. And just as you look up and over, you hear something for the first time. Something that you've never heard in your entire life. Tick, tock, tick, tock.
I look down at my wrist, at the watch.
You see a tiny hand beginning to slowly trace the face of your mother's watch. And that is where we're going to end our session.
Oh my, what the hell? Oh my god, that was so beautiful. I feel like I speak for everyone in chat right now, just like jaw open, tears in my eyes. Ruined. Ruined. Oh my god. I've been doing music in the background this whole time, and like, what the, like, the story the two of you have woven, flabbergasting. 100 out of 10. Tragic, beautiful, a piece of art, creative genius. Wow. Okay. Yes. Stella, Drak, please tell people where they can find you. Give yourselves a little introduction. Tell folks how you're doing right now after weaving that incredible piece of art. Stella, what's on your brain?
Oh wow. Yeah. This is a very special story. Drak and I went into this wanting to tell a story about the bonds that bind us and the bonds that we keep, and the very special bond of people that we love and what happens in the face of them not being around anymore. And thank you so much for letting us tell that story, and thank you, Drak, for playing it out with me. I'm Stellaluna. I am a TTRPG performer, producer, and tonight GM. You can find me at Stellaluna on Twitch and Stellaluna TV on all of their social media. Yeah, I'm so happy. I hope you liked it.
Oh my god, liked it. I'm gonna speak for everyone in chat right now and myself. We freaking loved it. That was amazing. That was so heartbreaking, so heartfelt. Oh my god. Yeah, Drak, tell us, where can people find you? How are you doing after that?
Yeah, I'm Drak. You can find me on Twitter at Drakoniques. That's Drakoniques. I do TTRPG stuff. How I'm feeling after this? Relieved and tense and sad and every emotion possible. I definitely was a bit nervous, but Stella, being the incredible storyteller and GM that they are, definitely helped ease me into it, especially because I just came from a very, very differently toned just TTRPG session right into this one. But Stella, with their beautiful description and NPCs, helped me find the footing in this world. And I'm always happy to be playing with them. So thank you, Connie, for giving me an excuse to play with Stella again.
Absolutely. Listen, as I was putting this series together, I was like, okay, so who should I invite? Okay, Stella and Drak, obviously. All right, now who else? So like, I was like, okay, obviously there's gotta be a table with Stella and Drak in it.
Thank you.
Like, obviously. So yeah, oh my god. So chat, that was incredible. Go follow Stella, go follow Drak. I'm sure there's a lot of Stella and Drak fans in chat already. But toss a coin to your Twitchers.
Yes,
After that incredible performance tonight. And thank you everyone for tuning in to Child of Time, again featuring the incredible Stella and Drak. What a mind-blowing session with twists, turns, such a powerful, fully embodied and realized protagonist, and such a richly fleshed out world full of fascinating, terrible, and beautiful gods. So the two of you knocked it out the park, knocked out this universe. Speaking of Godkiller, we have 2 more one-shots left every Saturday until Saturday, May 20th. So next weekend, May 6th, that's the 6th of May, your god is gonna be Gabe Hicks of Gabe James Games fame, and your Godkiller will be Serena Marie. So I'm really excited to see the table they spin up. This particular coming week also heralds the return of Godkiller First Blood, which was the very first of the 7 one-shots that we're streaming for Godkiller, with episodes dropping on both Tuesday and Thursday of this coming week. So join myself and C. Thomas as I'm the god, they're the Godkiller, and we delve deeper into Godkiller the game in this 16-part podcast exclusive miniseries. So if you want to see like a long-term campaign of this, kind of, medium-term campaign of this running, tune in wherever you you pod your casts at Transplanter RPG this Tuesday. And of course, a massive thank you to our sponsors for this one-shot miniseries, Roll App, Magpie Games, and Start Playing Games. And again, thank you all so much for tuning in tonight. I'm going to raid Vanna. It is their stream-iversary.
Yeah.
So use the raid message in chat. There's a really funny 6-month, 8-year streamiversary thing going on because it's 6 months after their 8-year streamiversary, and now she's doing stuff. So go send love to Vanna. Tell Vanna we love them in chat. Use the raid message. Tell them about this incredible thing you just witnessed. This amazing piece of art with these two fabulous folks. And we'll see you next week, same time, same place. And stick around for the raid. Peace.
Bye.
Bye.